What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. And in today's video, we'll be going over signals and slots in PyQt6. Let's get right into it. Let's first start by defining signals and slots. Well, a signal is just a notification that is sent out whenever an event takes place. So this could be something like a button being clicked, text being entered, something of that magnitude. And a slot is just what receives this data and potentially does something with this data. So for example, if we have a button that's clicked, we may have a function in the form of a slot that does something when this button is clicked. Now let's look at this in VS Code. So here's the exact same application as we had last video where we talked about QMainWindow and subclassing QMainWindow. Well, you notice that if I run this application, our central widget is just a button, but the button doesn't do anything. That's because we haven't set it to one, have a signal, and two, have a slot or something that does something with the signal. So I'm going to close this out. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a signal. So we're going to create something that sends out something when we do something with our button. So for example, if we want to click our button, we want something to be sent out. We want a notification to alert a slot that the button was clicked. So to do that, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this button variable to an instance variable so it can be used within the class as an instance member. And I'm going to change this to self.button as well. So this is an instance variable, and now I'm going to create this signal. So to do that, I'm just going to do self.button.m. We're going to have to choose what signal we want. So for this one, we're going to do clicked. So when the button is clicked, and then we're going to do .connect. And the argument for this .connect function is a function that we want, is a slot, a function that we want to occur when the button is clicked. So as you can see, the argument is a PyQt_slot. And for us, that's just going to be a function that happens when this self.button is clicked. Okay? So now I actually have to create a slot to be passed as an argument to this function. So I'm going to create a function. It's going to be called button was clicked. It's going to take the argument self per usual. And all it's going to do is it's going to print clicked. Okay? So now what we have here is we have a function that is doing something when we have our button that's clicked. So now all I have to do is pass this function as an argument to this .connect method, okay? So self.button was clicked is the argument, and we're not going to put parentheses here, okay? So we're passing this function with no parentheses. All right? So now whenever we press this button here, it should just print on the console clicked, clicked, clicked. So let's try it. And it does. As you can see, every time I press this button, the program is printing clicked in the console. Okay? Now, this is just one thing that we can do with signals and slots. Well, we can also implement multiple outputs or multiple things changing when we press a button or do an event. So, for example, I have this instance variable self.button. What if I wanted to track the number of times the button was clicked? Well, to do that, I could just do I could create a variable called self.times_clicked. And let's set this equal to 0. Now we want to update this every single time a button is clicked. So within our button was clicked function, I'm going to do self.times_clicked plus equals 1. So each time a button is clicked, we're going to increment by 1. And to show you the different things we can do within signals and slots, I'm actually going to change the text of the button every time a button is clicked. Okay? So I'm going to do self.button.setText. So this sets the text to whatever we pass as an argument. And we're going to pass a string. And this is going to be number of times clicked. Okay? I'm actually going to format this string to self.times_clicked. Okay, so all we're doing here is we have an instance variable called number of times clicked, and each time this button is clicked, I'm not going to only increment this variable by 1, but I'm going to set the text of the button to say that the number of times clicked is equal to the number of times actually clicked, equal to this variable that we're incrementing. Okay, so let's run it. And you can see first we have press me. The first time we press this button, it's going to say number of times clicked is 1, and we're still getting this clicked output in the console because we didn't change that. And this just keeps incrementing each time we click the button. Okay, so that is our introduction to signals and slots. You can expand upon this, you can practice with this, play around with this, see what else you can do with what we've learned so far to create some cool stuff with functions and signals and slots. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And in the next video, we'll be talking about widgets as a whole. So we're going to go over, and we're going to go in detail over widgets. And I hope to see you in the next one. Take it easy.